You ever notice how life doesn't test you with noise first? It tests you with subtlety, with people who sound right, people who say all the right things at all the right times. They speak loyalty like poetry, confidence like scripture. They tell you, I got you, I'm with you, you can trust me. And for a while, it feels good because we all want harmony. We all want to believe that when someone sings along to our song, they're moving to the same rhythm. But watch closely. Life always reveals truth in motion, not in conversation. Pay attention to what happens when the moment calls for action, not applause. When pressure shows up, when sacrifice is required, some folks will still be talking while you're doing all the walking. They'll still be promising while you're carrying the weight. And slowly, quietly, you'll realize something's off. Not because they did something loud or dramatic, but because they didn't do anything at all. Misalignment is rarely aggressive. It's gentle, it's polite. It's the meeting they never attend, the support that never materializes, the silence when you needed presence. And if you're not careful, you'll keep explaining it away, telling yourself they mean well, telling yourself you're asking too much. But understand this, alignment doesn't need excuses. When words and actions belong to each other, they don't argue. They move together. This isn't about judgment, it's about discernment. Some people are not malicious. They're just not meant to walk beside you where you're going. And that's okay. But trust, real trust, demands integrity. It demands that what someone says can stand upright when life leans hard on it. Because the soul recognizes consistency. It feels safe where language and behavior share the same backbone. And when they don't, life isn't punishing you. It's educating you, teaching you to listen beyond sound, to read the space between promises and proof. So remember this as you move forward. Never confuse beautiful words with solid ground, because alignment doesn't speak, it shows up. Now let's talk about presence, real presence. Not the kind that checks in when the lights are bright and the music is loud. I'm talking about the people who seem to hear your song only when it fits their mood, their needs, their convenience. They show up when you're winning, when your name carries weight, when being close to you feels good for them. They clap the loudest when the crowd is watching. But the moment the rhythm shifts, when life pulls you backstage to do the quiet work, they're suddenly hard to find. And at first, you don't question it. You tell yourself everyone's busy. You make excuses on their behalf. But life has a way of revealing patterns, not accidents. Pay attention to who's around when there's nothing to gain. When there's no spotlight, when you're building in the dark, wrestling with doubt, learning patience the hard way, that's where truth lives. See, convenience can imitate loyalty for a while. It can wear the same clothes, say the same words, even feel the same until pressure shows up. Because convenience disappears when it costs something, it leaves when the return isn't immediate, and trust cannot be built on a foundation that only exists when conditions are perfect. This isn't bitterness talking, it's wisdom. Some people are meant to celebrate chapters, not walk through the whole book with you. They're seasonal, and seasons aren't bad. They're necessary, but confusion comes when you expect winter commitment from someone who was only designed for summer joy. Presence is proven in the unglamorous moments, in consistency, in showing up when there's no reward except character. When someone stands with you not because it benefits them, but because it's right. Those are the people who don't just hear your music, they help you keep time when the beat gets heavy. And if someone fades when the lights go out, don't chase them, don't resent them, just recognize them. Life isn't subtracting from you. It's refining your circle so your journey stays true to its rhythm. Because those who are only present when it's convenient were never meant to carry the weight of your trust. There's a different kind of closeness that doesn't always announce itself. It feels safe at first, familiar. These are the people who know your story, know where you've been, know what hurt you when nobody else was watching. You trusted them with your cracks, your questions, your unfinished thoughts, and that kind of access is powerful, but access without alignment can quietly become dangerous, because some people love the version of you that needed them. They're comfortable with your wounds, fluent in your past, at ease when you're uncertain. But the moment you start to grow, when your posture changes, when your voice steadies, when your vision gets clearer, you feel a shift. Subtle resistance, a joke that cuts just a little too deep, a reminder of who you used to be, offered like nostalgia, but delivered like a leash. They don't always mean harm. Sometimes it's fear. Your growth disrupts the role they learned to play in your life. If you heal, they lose relevance. If you rise, the old dynamic no longer works, so they stay close to your secrets while quietly distancing themselves from your becoming. That's when confusion creeps in. You start wondering why support feels thinner now than it did when you were struggling. Why your victories are met with silence instead of celebration. And if you're not careful, you'll begin shrinking just to keep the peace, dimming your evolution so everyone else stays comfortable. But hear this clearly. Anyone who benefits from your brokenness but feels threatened by your growth is not someone you can trust with your future. Trust requires room to expand, room to change, room to outgrow yesterday without apology. Growth is not betrayal. Healing is not arrogance. Becoming more than you were is the natural direction of life, and the people meant to walk with you will adjust their stride, not ask you to slow down. So honor your progress, protect it. Not everyone who knows your past deserves access to your next level. Because trust isn't about who knows your secrets, it's about who can celebrate your evolution without trying to anchor you to who you used to be. Now here's a tricky one, because it doesn't arrive wearing a warning label. It shows up dressed like love, concern, protection. These are the people who say, "I just want what's best for you. I'm only saying this because I care. Trust me, I know better." And for a while you believe them, because care should feel safe. Guidance should feel grounding. But slowly, something starts to shift. You notice your decisions don't feel like yours anymore. Your instincts get questioned. Your confidence gets softened with doubt. Every step you take has to be explained, approved, filtered through someone else's comfort. And if you push back, you're told you're being ungrateful, rebellious, reckless. That's when control reveals itself, not with force, but with guilt. Real care empowers. It strengthens your spine, not weakens it. It encourages your discernment, not replaces it. Control, on the other hand, needs you unsure. It needs you dependent, because when someone truly wants the best for you, they don't need to shrink you to feel secure. Sometimes control comes from fear, not malice, fear of losing influence, fear of being left behind, fear that if you fully step into who you are, the old balance won't survive. So it tightens its grip softly, suggests instead of commands, warns instead of forbids, and before you realize it, you're negotiating with your own intuition. Pay attention to how you feel after conversations like that. Do you feel clearer or smaller, lighter or hesitant? Peace doesn't require permission. Purpose doesn't need supervision. Anything that consistently asks you to abandon your inner voice in exchange for approval is not guidance. It's confinement. This isn't about rejecting wisdom. We all need counsel, but wisdom respects choice. Wisdom trusts your ability to learn, even if that learning comes through mistakes. Control cannot tolerate that, because mistakes restore independence. Life gave you intuition for a reason. A compass doesn't shout, but it always points true, and anyone who truly cares about you will help you trust that compass, not try to confiscate it. So remember this: if someone's concern costs you your voice, your peace, or your sense of self, it was never care to begin with. Now let's talk about the ones who speak softly about peace, but seem to lives surrounded by storms. They tell you they hate drama, yet everywhere they go, tension follows. Conflict shows up like background music in their life, never loud enough to call out, but constant enough to drain the room. At first, you don't connect the dots. You assume it's bad luck, misunderstandings, other people's faults. But patterns don't lie, and peace doesn't leave wreckage behind. These people know the language of calm. They know how to sound centered, reasonable, even wise, but watch how things unfold around them. Conversations turn heavy. Small issues grow sharp edges. Simple moments feel complicated. And somehow, you're always explaining yourself, always managing emotions, always walking on eggshells you didn't place there. Here's the truth. Chaos doesn't always announce itself as chaos. Sometimes it wears a calm face and speaks in measured tones. Sometimes it disguises itself as honesty, as passion, as just being real. But real peace is consistent. It doesn't spike and crash. It doesn't need constant repair. It doesn't exhaust everyone in the room. People who thrive on chaos don't necessarily want destruction. They want stimulation. Stillness makes them uncomfortable. Silence feels threatening, so they stir things up subtly, unconsciously, creating friction just to feel alive. And if you're grounded, if you're steady, they'll test you, push your buttons, pull you into cycles that don't belong to you. Over time, you start to feel tired in ways rest can't fix. Your nervous system stays on alert. Your joy feels interrupted, and that's your spirit telling you something important. Peace isn't passive, it's protective. When someone consistently disrupts your inner balance, it's not chemistry, it's incompatibility. This isn't about perfection. Everyone has moments, but trust lives where accountability and stability live together. When apologies repeat but patterns don't change, when calm is promised but disorder keeps returning, you're not dealing with coincidence, you're dealing with character. So choose peace without apology, distance without drama, and clarity without guilt. Because anyone who claims to love peace but feeds on chaos was never meant to be a keeper of your trust. And finally, there's a kind of disconnect that reveals itself not in what people do, but in what they refuse to own. These are the ones who always want understanding but never accountability. They want grace for their mistakes, patience for their patterns, compassion for their impact, but when it's time to look in the mirror, suddenly the lights go out. They're skilled with explanations. They can tell you why it wasn't really their fault, why the timing was wrong, why you misunderstood, why circumstances forced their hand. And if you listen long enough, you'll notice something missing: responsibility. Not once do they say, "I was wrong." Not once do they sit with the discomfort of growth. Because accountability requires humility, and humility requires strength. At first, you try to be fair. You tell yourself everyone deserves empathy, and they do, but empathy without responsibility becomes enablement. It teaches people that charm can replace character, that apologies don't need change, that words can outrun truth. And over time, you're the one carrying the emotional bill for someone else's refusal to grow. Trust cannot survive in that environment. It erodes quietly, because when someone won't take responsibility, you're forced to do it for them emotionally, mentally, sometimes even morally. You start adjusting your expectations, lowering your standards, explaining behavior you shouldn't have to explain. And that's not partnership, that's imbalance. Accountability isn't punishment, it's alignment. It's the moment someone says, "I see my part, and I'll do better." That's where trust breathes. That's where respect takes root. Without it, relationships become cycles: same apologies, same outcomes, different days. Pay attention to how someone responds when confronted with truth. Do they listen or deflect? Reflect or retreat? Growth begins where defensiveness ends. Anyone who demands endless understanding but offers no self-awareness is asking you to invest in stagnation. Life will always give grace, but it also expects maturity, and the people meant to walk with you understand that ownership is not weakness, it's wisdom. So remember this: trust those who can say I was wrong without losing their dignity, because accountability is the price of staying in alignment with your life.